A spiritual practice, meditation, whatever one does to connect with higher energy, it's really kind of a waste of time unless it can be practically, used in the world. I mean, we're born here because we have karma to work out. And the way to work out karma is not so much through social activity and all this kind of stuff, philanthropy and stuff like that. It's through really learning how to open one's heart and how to live in the world with joy, with love, with compassion, with being capable of allowing that spiritual force that flows through us to touch other people. And in the period of one's lifetime, we attract many, many different situations, and all of them are part of our karma that we have to work out. And until a person develops consciousness inside, most of those situations, they extract from us unhappiness, anger, judgment, opinions, ego. We're better than somebody else. And what's interesting about meditation is that as you evolve in it, your whole way of perceiving the world changes. So it's no longer, picking out what's good or bad, but it's truly listening to life, letting life teach us, the lessons that we have to learn and how to get stronger inside and build a system that is more deeply connected to a higher force of energy in the universe. And all of meditation is about that. It's about building that kind of system. And, teaching us to never forget that we do have karma to work out. We weren't born somewhere in the astral plane, We weren't born in the cosmos. We were born on the earth. And this place is full of, incredible situations and absurdity and suffering and pain and difficulty. And we have to get through this thing and transform our inner life into somebody that truly learns how to live here like a happy person. Happy people are enlightened people, not people that have a lot of wisdom and knowledge and read all the books and can quote, any chapter and verse in the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita and all this stuff. It has nothing to do with enlightenment. Enlightenment is a living experience. And it really has to do with building a system inside that is strong enough to transform the difficulty, the pain, and the suffering to an open heart. Enlightened people are happy people. They're people that truly, I was watching a television program the other day where this guy Anderson Cooper was on there, and he was interviewing a guy who wrote a book about meditation. So he had a bunch of questions that, not his questions, but questions from people in the audience, and, that were given to him. And one of them is, what is enlightenment? And I sat there in complete astonishment as these two guys that were there went on for 10 minutes trying to explain enlightenment. And, to me, it's not, enlightened people don't know they're enlightened. They just live that way. Enlightened people are people who don't walk around spouting wisdom all the time. Their very life is a complete surrender to a higher force, and that energy flows through them, and they live that way. There's joy, there's compassion, there's non-judgment. There's all these things that I always mention. And a big one is being able to forgive oneself and to forgive other people. I mean, this is really a state of enlightenment, but one doesn't know they're enlightened. You just live that way. It's completely experiential. And in order to get a system that's capable of living that way, we have to develop it inside. And it doesn't come because we read 50 books on, Tantra and, cosmos and, chakras and Kundalini. And I mean, when I was a kid, who the hell ever heard of Kundalini? It didn't exist. Who knew what Kundalini was all about? Today, every 3-year-old kid can tell you about Kundalini. It's amazing. It's a whole different world today. But Believe me, people know less about Kundalini today than they did when nobody knew what Kundalini was. They talk about it, but it has nothing to do with the reality of the experience and the reality of developing a system inside that is strong enough to truly allow spiritual energy to come down and guide your life. Spiritual energy to come down, as I said earlier today, to allow you to transform the human level and the sexual and the energy, the tantra, into energy that activates Kundalini. Spiritual energy that comes down and gives you the strength because you've developed this third chakra to be able to live that way. And that enables the heart to open, and it enables a person to become enlightened, but they don't even know they're enlightened. They just live that way. You know, anybody, I remember I always kid around about this, when I used to go to Kathmandu, there was an incredible temple there called Pashupatinath. And, you know, and they had all these Nagababas that lived there. I don't know, the guys with all the matted hair and the, the tridents painted all over their bodies, and they sit there all day and smoke Ganga. And there was one of these Nagababas who had a little hut at Pachapati that said, Saint. I'll never forget that. And this guy, would give, people would come for teachings from the saint. And it struck me so profoundly that if you're a saint, the last thing that you have to surrender in order to attain your enlightenment is your sainthood. You need a little bit of the gangster in you, in order to surrender your sainthood. And it's true. We can't have labels. We have to be free. We have to be free of everything. And you don't get free of everything until you have a system inside that is strong enough to be constantly in touch with higher energy in you, no matter what you do during the day, not just in meditation class. I always tell people, because you meditate, it doesn't mean you're having a spiritual life. All it means is you've come to the gym to learn to use the tools you were born with, the mind and the breath, and to develop a system that is strong enough so you can have a spiritual life. Spiritual life is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. No matter what we do, who we're with, wherever we are, understand we are interacting with life, and life is the guru. Life is teaching us exactly what we have to do to learn. And you're beginning to have a spiritual life when you start listening to life. This is really true. You start listening to life, okay, there's something bigger than me that I can learn from. Now, my job is not to be a guru. I'm not a guru. It's a stupid thing being a guru. My job is to train people how to build systems inside themselves, so they can have a system that is strong enough to be able to sit in front of life. And that really is the job of any teacher, to help train people to develop that kind of inner life. So we have to remember profoundly that a spiritual life, you understand, has to be very practical, because we live in a practical world. And it's even in the Bible to say you render unto Caesar what Caesar's, and you render unto God what Caesar is the rent. It's this, the doctor, the lawyer, the going to the grocery store, having to eat, having to work. That's Caesar. So we need to render unto Caesar, everything that Caesar requires, but we do it with gratitude, with an open heart, with love. You understand? We're grateful to Caesar. Caesar's not a pain in the ass. Caesar's just a good reminder that we have to grow inside. And that growth comes because we build a system that connects us to spirit, so that everything works for us, instead of everything being an enemy and a pain in the ass. And it all works. It all works for a human being. And this is an extraordinary way to live. Because then you don't need all these defenses, and you trust, the greatest teacher there is on the planet Earth, and that's life. It's not an enemy. It's there to teach you what you need to learn every day to grow. And this is a hard thing to learn, and the only reason people don't learn it, they're up against one person. That's themselves. We're not up against that, we're up against us. And when we finally get past us, we begin to listen to the great teacher, which is life. We stop listening to this idiotic thing in our mind that is constantly creating tension and problems for us and a lot of trouble. We listen to life, and it's there to teach us exactly what we need to do every single moment to grow and to get closer to God. So it's an extraordinary interaction between a human being and the greatest teacher there is on this planet, which I've said at least 50 times today, life. And the beginnings of a spiritual life is really when we start to listen. We stop being congested with all this craziness in our head, and we start listening to life and letting it show us what we have to do to grow every day. And it's impossible to listen to life if there isn't gratitude, if there isn't trust, if there isn't forgiveness, if we're not really open inside. And that is where meditation comes in. It's a tool to get us open. And that's all it is. And I always also kid around, this is the gym. Now, I'm a Kundalini aerobics instructor. That's what I do. And it's the gym. We're in the gym to learn how to build psychic muscles, which are chakras. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask?
What is Kundalini basically? I know it's the male and the female energy, but you say the male and the female gives birth to Kundalini. So the Kundalini is what?
Kundalini is a force that is dormant at the base of almost everybody's spine, which is the pathway to God. It moves up the spine to the crown chakra, and it incubates here, and then it opens the crown. In Hinduism they call it the 1,000-petal lotus that opens. And then the soul of a human being can connect with the soul of the universe. That marriage brings wisdom, knowledge, joy, love, total surrender. And Kundalini is the force that does this, that really allows a person to move into the cosmos. In order to activate Kundalini, energy has to go through the sexual area. And in the sexual area, that's where you have the union of the male-female principle. The yin-yang, the Shiva-Shakti, even in Judaism, the Jehovah Shekhinah, it's the male-female principle that needs to be united in a human being. It takes place in the sexual area. And that's what Tantra is all about. When you look at books on Tantra, all you see is gods and goddesses, sitting there in intercourse, Well, it's just a metaphor for this energy that's in the sexual chakra, which brings together the male-female principle. And that will activate his birth to the Kundalini. In order to do that, as I explained earlier today, you really have to be strong inside. You have to be really grounded in this chakra here, the third chakra, so that you can use the chi as the roots to enable this whole process to take place. Because Kundalini is a very powerful energy. And if you're not grounded there, Kundalini could tip the scales, there are a lot of people in institutions that have had Kundalini attacks,
So if we're focused in the third chakra, is that energy going to move through the sex automatically?
No, you have to guide it. That's where your will comes in. You bring a piece of your attention to the base of the spine, and you draw the energy through the sex. A lot of it will go through the sex automatically when you build the kind of system I'm talking about. But a good way to do it is you just bring a piece of your attention. 5% is all that's necessary to the base of the spine, and then you consciously draw the energy through the sex. And as the energy moves through the sexual area, this whole marriage takes place. I know in Hinduism, I used to get these statues when I ran my gallery, it was a Nandi, which is a bull. It's a Shaivite statue. And then there's a lingam and a yoni together, and in the back was a cobra. And it really symbolizes what I'm talking about. The Nandi is the chi, the power. Understand? The union of the lingam and the yoni takes place in the sexual, the male, female, the sexual area, and then the kundalini is the cobra that rises. You can even use that image when you do that kind of work. It'll really help you a lot.
And the kundalini is the only force that can open your crown chakra?
Well, I can't answer that. I don't know, Mary, because I know it works for me, and I've seen it work for a lot of people. I don't know, in order to get the crown chakra open, you really have to the whole chakra system has to be working. And that's not going to happen unless you have that grounding and you activate the kundalini. This is more than just prayer. This is the living experience of energy rising up the spine and unifying with God. It's a whole different reality, this thing. And whether there are other ways to do this, there probably are. I don't know them. This is what I teach. If you want to find other ways, go find other teachers, that maybe teach something that, can do the same thing in a different way. I don't know. But this is what I teach. This is what I've spent all my life learning, And to me, I had all these teachers were the most powerful way and most direct way of getting there that I ever found in my life. But I'm sure there are other ways. I can't be the only way. And if you want to find other ways, you have to find other people that teach other ways. But I don't know where to send you, Because once I met Rudy, I discovered really what I had to do with my life. I realized that this is the only thing I ever heard in the early part of my life that made any sense in doing it. Now it takes work. It's not just going to happen. It's not going to just happen because you get down on your knees and you pray. You've got to really do the work. And the reason you have to do the work is you're up against one person, and that's yourself. That keeps it from happening. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Besides bringing Shakti down and working this way, can you bring Shakti up through your feet, up through the earth, and work on it that way as
You
well?
can bring Shakti through your nose if you're open.
Your nose, ears. But is it beneficial to work with the earth? Is it beneficial to work with the earth Shakti to bring it up through the earth? Does it help?
Look, if you do what I'm talking about, that'll automatically happen. You don't have to work with it. It'll just happen. But you got to get the whole chakra system working, and then your chakras right here, in the sole of the feet. There are chakras, that will draw energy from the earth. But you got to get this thing working here. You don't have this thing working, forget about it. It's not going to happen. Draw energy from the palms of your hands, the chakras here. Very powerful energy. When you really get open the way I'm talking, your hands will automatically open. And you'll be able to draw energy right out of the cosmos in your hands, through each finger. It'll just come right into you. It'll come into you from the earth. Come into you from everywhere. But you gotta open. You gotta get yourself open. That's the key. I keep pounding people with this because this is something I've learned after doing this for so many freaking years. But you gotta get open, then it all comes. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Good, me a long time to learn this. Years. I heard it from Rudy, and then it took 20 years to begin to even learn this thing. But it's something that I know in my life I have to give away to whoever wants it. It's not for everybody, but whoever wants it is willing to work deep enough on themselves to get it. That's my job. I finally found my job on the planet Earth. Giving away everything I've learned. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, if there are no more questions, then there'll be meditation class at 7 this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart.